All right, 20 past the 4 o'clock hour, as we typically do every Thursday. We talk a little college football. We welcome in our good friend, Nick Kosko, who gets a little reprieve this week. Maybe we'll get his thoughts on Army-Navy. Well, of course, we're going to get his thoughts on Army-Navy. National writer, video at 24/7 Sports, play-by-play, RU Wrestling, Jersey Flight, Atlantic City FC, and right here, the host of the College Football Pick'em Show, 8 to 9 every Saturday on 1490 SBR. What do you say, pal?
I mean, of course you're going to get my thoughts on Army-Navy. I'm actually going to be there on Saturday. How about that?
Have you ever been to an Army-Navy game?
No, and this is Q. Let me tell you. So I'll be covering it up there for 24/7 Sports this weekend. I wanted it in Philly to go see it for the first time, but hey, what are you going to do? MetLife, New York City skyline, 20th anniversary of 9/11. The ceremonial stuff is going to be, I think, absolutely tremendous. But no, this has been a bucket list event for me to go see as a fan or cover as a member of the media as far as anything in sports. We're talking Super Bowls, college football playoff, national championships, NCAA wrestling tournaments, all this great stuff. Q. Army-Navy is on my bucket list, and I couldn't tell you how thrilled I am actually to be there in just a couple days.
No, that's great. I mean, be there as a little bit of a fan too, and just kind of enjoy the pageantry because. I've said this for years. When it comes to that game, it's rarely a standalone, man. It's a game unto its own, and it was never really about the outcome of that game, to be quite honest. It's just kind of watching these young men and women, and of course these players out there who do what they need to do for the country, and you just got to give them a ton of credit. Now, the game itself. On the field, I already mentioned that Army laying 7-8-3. We know about Navy. They rarely throw the football. They love to run the football. We know they've had another down year, which, again, it happens sometimes. But I look at Army, and, the one thing about Army is, man, they can score some points. I mean, you look at their running back, you look at their wide receiver, you look at their quarterback's pretty athletic. I mean, they got playmakers. There's no reason in the world that Army, forget about the number itself, because I mentioned, to me, it's kind of sacrilegious to bet on this game, but there's no reason that Army should lose this football game. But it is Army-Navy. So.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the same thing. And don't forget, it is Army-Navy, and if I'm going to put in an early pick again, this is not a game that you really want to bet just because it's so wonky in terms of the final result pretty much every single season. Plus, you want to appreciate the game for what it is, very old school, OG football, Two service academies going at it, and of course, all these guys they're playing their rear ends off for possibly especially the seniors, possibly for the final time before they go off and defend our country anyway. So, but you look at Army, I looked at it, opened up at 8, it's at 7.5, depending upon when you get it. If I'm going to make, if we're just going to make a pick just for making the sake of a pick, I would say Army -7 or -7.5, wherever you're going to get it. I would take them in this game. The total is at 34.5. It opened at 35. It's very interesting because you mentioned that Army can score a lot of points. I do think they can. They do. I think they will score a lot of points usually. But again, as you mentioned, it is Army-Navy. I was thinking about this game today, Q. I feel like Army could cover the 7, but win one of those 24-7, 24-10 type of games.
Yeah, I like that.
And just hit it. Yeah, and just hit the under.
Yeah, no, I love your thinking on that. If you go back, even over the last 4 games, Army shut them out last year 15-0. Navy won in Philadelphia in 2019 31-7. Army won 17-18, and the scores respectively 14-13 under 30, 17-10 under 30. And plus, we don't know what the weather is going to be like. That's always, you do somewhat kind of take that into consideration. But you're right. If you're going to make a play in this one, you might want to lean towards the under in this game.
Yeah, without a doubt. But again, we know how both these teams operate. Triple option, wing tee, hand it off, hand it off, hand it off. You might see 2 passes. Sometimes some of these games can be some years, as we know, especially if both teams are very competitive with one another. You're going to see, less than 10 passes combined for 4 quarters? I mean, that is just great old school football. Man, I absolutely love that. I can't wait to see it in person. But, yeah, that could lead you to the under. You're going to see a lot of ball control from both sides. And, again, Army has had the more explosive offense, so to speak, over the past couple of years. The triple option seems to be working better. Munkin's a darn good coach. Navy's been a good program, of course, with that triple option as well. The Army seems to have evolved more with the passing game towards the modern-day age of college football. but there are 6 of their old-school principles, of course, but Navy seems to be stuck behind them in that regard, at least. But again, both these teams play outstanding, hard-nosed football, especially on the defensive side, both excellent tackling teams on both sides as well. So, I would go with the under here. It's set at 34.5. They might go back up to 35 depending upon what happens over the next 2 days, but I would say hit the under. But, again, I have a strange feeling that Army would cover, but, again, still have on a low-scoring game, but Army will win by possibly 10 in this one.
I'll put you on the spot right now. How many pass attempts do you think were combined thrown in last year's game, a game in which Army won 15-0?
I remember this game. If I recall correctly, it was snowing last year.
Yep.
I believe so, and it was very sloppy. I want to say, oh, man, I mean, I know the snow would indicate less, but I'm going to say 14 combined passes.
Not bad. 8.
8. I was thinking maybe lower than 10, but I thought that maybe one of those trick questions where, no, they actually do it 5 times in the opening drive somehow.
Yeah,
but there you go. You'll probably see relatively the same thing this coming Saturday as well, so something like that.
Yeah, Morris had 3 passes for Navy. Tyler had 1 pass, which he completed for 28 yards. He also added 96 on the ground. And you mentioned the last several years. You go back 2019, it was 31-7. Prior to that, 17-10, 14-13, 21-17, 21-17, 17-10. The blowout was 34-7. Everyone remembers 2012, the fumble late. 2011, the late Navy scored 27-21. So these games, aside from a couple little aberrations here and there, and really early in the year 2000, they're relatively close. So I kind of lean with you. I think it'll be a great game nonetheless. That'll be Saturday, 3 o'clock, Army-Navy, CBS. All right, so we know what we're going to get as far as the college football playoff. I mean, when everything came out and about, so to speak, did you have any, were you shaking your head? Do you think they got it right? Where anything was questionable with you? Because I don't know if you saw Brando, and I think it was, who was it? They were going back and forth.
That'd be our good buddies Kirk Herbstreit and Tim Brando going back and forth on
Timmy
Twitter.
Brando was like, "Hey, whoa! I know where you're going with that. I'm not going to have it."
It's funny too, because I don't want to talk about stupid media stats, but Herbstreit obviously did not mention Brando by name. So maybe he was subtweeting him, or maybe he just meant people in general. Because there are more people like Tim Brando in general. So who knows what really on the road, but. Who really knows what went on with that conversation? Maybe Tim just saw it and he naturally assumed it was about him. But in any event, no, I didn't see any surprises in the top 4. I mean, frankly, if I had my way, I would have kept the same 4 teams, but I probably would have put I would have flipped Georgia and Cincinnati, only because Cincinnati was undefeated. Georgia was not that they were exposed against Alabama, and you're losing to the number 3 team in the country. Big deal, SEC championship game. It's not a bad loss, all right? It's a good loss, but they were exposed defensively, considering this team was undefeated, and they had this so-called elite dominant defense that was not going to give up more than 17 points a game. And Alabama goes out there and whacks them with 41 points, and Bryce Young has another Heisman moment, which again he'll probably win the Heisman anyway. So I would have flipped Cincinnati and Georgia, and you get that Alabama-Georgia rematch in the semifinals. Then you get Michigan versus Cincinnati. But all in all, I'm fine with it. Again. Is anybody going to beat Alabama? I mean, I don't think Georgia would beat Alabama in a rematch at this point anyway, whether it would have been the semifinals or in the title game. Cincinnati's going to be up against it for sure against Alabama. I'm interested to see that game. And, of course, now that you have the matchup of Michigan against Georgia, I mean, that is you want to talk about a ratings bonanza. I mean, I think everybody is going to be tuning in. I mean, believe me, they'll watch both games, Q. And, again, it is New Year's Eve, but, I mean, they're going to be locked in to the Orange Bowl at 7:30 on New Year's Eve. Michigan, Georgia, I cannot wait for that one.
I'm curious, Alabama's laying 13.5 against Cincinnati. Georgia's laying 7.5, 8 against Michigan. It opened at 8.5. I think it's down to now, it's been bet down to 7.5. If Michigan plays Cincinnati, what kind of line are you I mean, you would say Michigan's the favorite, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Michigan would definitely be that. I don't think Cincinnati would be any type of favorite against any of these teams. If Michigan had been playing Cincinnati in these semifinals, you look at it right now, Michigan's a 7-point dog to Georgia, right? And Georgia was basically a touchdown favorite to Alabama just last week, and Alabama's opening up basically a 2-touchdown favorite against Cincinnati. So I would say Michigan is probably going to be double digits as well over Cincinnati, only because you look at what they did last week, Michigan. Now, Iowa, on paper, was a pretty solid team, right? 10-2 going to the Big Ten title game. I never had their flaws offensively, unlike Cincinnati, but Iowa did have a very excellent defense throughout the entire year. And yet Michigan was still a double-digit favorite last week at -11. And actually, that's one pick we did have. We had Michigan -11, and they went through that by a landslide, winning 42-3. So if Michigan had been matched up with Cincinnati this week, for the semifinals, I don't know if it would necessarily be 13.5 like Alabama, but I'm thinking more like the 9-10 range.
Yeah.
Michigan would be that big of a favorite against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I was leaning towards those numbers as well. I was just kind of tossing the numbers around in my mind. 4:32 on a Thursday edition of BYP right here on AM 1490 SBR, Sports Betting Radio. Rich Quinones here. Nick Kosko joining us as he typically does every Thursday in his weekly spot. So it looks, right? I mean, I guess we can say with the utmost confidence right now that Mario Cristobal back into the news, heading back to his alma mater. So, I mean, look, we saw, right, what he was able to do with the Ducks. What was it, 35-13 record? I think he had, a pair of Pac-12 championships. So with the chance to make the three, they lost to Utah. Okay, not a problem. I think that's a huge get, to be quite honest, if I'm Miami.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, at this point, I was thinking about this today, just getting ready for Saturday's show as well, because, I mean, that's the biggest, granted, unless Oregon makes a even splashier high, which I don't think they are, unless they bring back Chip Kelly, which, that's where you can see.
Right.
As far as Mario Cristobal is concerned, yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about it today, Q. I mean, this guy was bought out of his contract at Oregon to come to Miami. Miami's paying him even more money, and then Miami also bought out Manny Diaz's contract. So they essentially paid three different deals just to bring this guy into Miami. They know what they want. They're going all in now to get back to the quote-unquote the U days of the early 2000s and back in the 80s, back when the U was the U. They want to get back to that. And they believe Cristobal is the guy to do that for them. And now, do I think he's the guy? I think he is the guy to make them very good once again, especially in a softer ACC where Clemson had Clemson's horrible year, Q, is 9-3 and missing the ACC title game when you had Pitt and Wake Forest go to it. No offense to those schools, but come next year, it's going to be Clemson's conference to lose once again. And who's your number two? Everybody's going to go through some turnover. And to me, Mario Cristobal injects instant energy, gets a great quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke back next year. I mean, to me, the way this is, they were 7-5 this year, and everybody was ripping Manny Diaz, and they lost 3 conference games by a combined 8 points, and they actually beat Pitt, the current ACC champions this year. So, to me, you bring back most guys, maybe flip some guys in terms of recruits and transfers. I'll tell you what, Hugh, if Mario Cristobal doesn't win between 8 and 10 games in his first year with the Hurricanes next year, I think it's an absolute failure, at least in year one. But that's what I expect. I mean, I think this guy could actually win and go 10-2 and play for an ACC title in his first year as the head coach of Miami.
So, a couple things, right? The flip side to that, when you think about the money that might have to potentially get doled out, it could be at the end of the day, think about it, they fire Diaz, they hire Mario Cristobal, it can pretty much, it might potentially cost them probably an additional $27-28 million. I'm curious, Diaz kind of had this reaction that, he was hurt by his decision. Do we forget about his track record? I mean, it seemed like everybody forgot about Temple.
Exactly. The cup of coffee he had with Temple Owls over in Philadelphia.
Bingo. I mean, come on, man, that's karma. Is he going to get another head coaching gig?
Not yet. I think he might down the line. Just depends on where he lands as a coordinator. I know that there was talk that he might go to Oklahoma as a defensive coordinator. He'll end up as a defensive coordinator somewhere, maybe at a bigger institution. I shouldn't say bigger than Miami, but at least at a Power 5 institution, he might end up as a defensive coordinator. There was talk about Oklahoma, him joining Brent Venables' staff. Who knows where he's going to end up. But again, Q, you really can't complain too much of him again. I mean, the way he was treated at the end, don't get me wrong, it wasn't the best way. Miami didn't go about it the best way, plus it all got leaked out, so it stinks that way. But don't forget, this guy had to get bought out of his contract. He's still going home with millions and millions of dollars. And plus, you mentioned before, it was karma for what he did to Temple just a few years ago. So he'll end up somewhere as a D coordinator, might have to do that. I mean, who knows? Maybe he ends up as a quote-unquote defensive analyst under Nick Saban. Yeah, would you like that? Go to the Saban rehabilitation school?
He might have to get a gig as a defensive coordinator, right? Because if you go back, he was
State. He'll absolutely. He's not going to. I don't think he's going to be a head coach come next season. He'll be an assistant or a defensive coordinator somewhere before he has to build himself back up. But then, all in all, Q, he wasn't a bad coach in Miami. I guess he just didn't mesh with the culture down there. The Boosters want something bigger, so to speak. And again, I don't remember a guy getting ripped this much for a 7-5 season where, again, I know it's the U and they want to win 10 games, win titles, and yada, yada, yada. But when you go 7-5 and you lose, again, your 3 conference games by less than 10 points, I mean, it's like, do you really get ripped? I mean, I've never seen anybody get ripped that much. And don't forget, the other 2 losses, Q, were to Alabama week 1 and then Michigan State 2 weeks later, and both those teams are top 10 teams in the country.
But let me say this. What's the difference between Cristobal and Diaz?
I would say Cristobal brings that hard-nosed, no-nonsense attitude, and you look at what they could do offensive line-wise. Diaz is a defensive guy. Cristobal is that total package. You know what I mean? And I think Miami needed somebody with Cristobal's personality, and again, that back to that bunch, pale, hard work mentality, not the flashiness of the U that you saw in later years, earlier this century, where that was the flashy U. Back in the day when they were that hard-nosed U, Jimmy Johnson era, that's where it was like you had the flashiness, of course, but they came to play football, and I think that's what they wanted out of Cristobal. I think that's what you get out of Cristobal compared to Manny Diaz.
And now you're missing the real big elephant in the room. Who went to Miami and who went to Florida State? You got to take that in consideration, right? Where did Diaz go? Diaz went to Florida State.
He's an outsider. Cristobal's you could call Cristobal a Miami lifer.
Bingo, you got it. And I had to just laugh because remember he took over for who was it? Mark Rick, right? After Rick announced his retirement.
Yes.
Yeah, changed course, and he was basically by Temple. He was hired the same day to take over Miami. So get the hell out of here with that nonsense. I don't want to hear him. No, I don't want to hear. I don't feel bad in that regard, man. You know what? You make your bed, and you got to lie in it. All right, I got a couple minutes before I let you get out of here. Right now, your Philadelphia Eagles pretty much knocking on the doorstep here of a potential playoff spot. I know there's zero quarterback controversy, but it's amazing what happens when you change course and you run the football a little bit. They did it with the backup in Minshew the other day. They made the adjustments. I mean, look, if you're an Eagles fan, you take it and you run with it. You don't apologize for it. I think they got a legit shot here to at least win 3 out of 4 and then, get in the playoffs.
Yeah, that seems to be the path to get in. I would say nothing less than 9-8 will get them in. Now, I don't think they're going to win out at 4 in a row and finish 10-7. But if they are going to get into, they have to. I mean, they have to beat Washington twice. They have to beat the Giants after the horrendous loss the other week, of course. But it really comes down to, can you win 3 out of 4? And if they do, I think they will get in. There's a chance, but you lose to the Giants already, so does that give you confidence into beating the second time or even beating Washington twice? So I mean, we'll see how it goes, and it also depends on how Dallas is going to play that final week. But to me, you use these last 4 games for the Eagles to measure, all right, is Jalen Hurts your guy for 2022 and beyond, whether you make the playoffs or not? And now if they make the playoffs with him steering the ship, then I think he is going to be the quarterback next year, and they won't bother trading picks for Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, or whoever the case may be, or even draft somebody. If they miss the playoffs, where does the blame go? Now, is it on Jalen Hurts? Do you make a quarterback change, or do you have to fix the pieces around him to make him better for 2022? So it's going to be a very interesting last 4 weeks for the Eagles. I'm actually glad, at least as a fan, I'm glad they have the bye this week so they can rest, recuperate, recover, and then gear up for that final stretch of the season. So it is going to be fascinating. Now, if they make a run to the playoffs, they're going to have a chance. Do they ultimately get there? Right now, I'm leaning no because I don't see them sweeping Washington. I can see them beating the Giants.
Yeah, no doubt.
But right now, too, I see maybe a 2-2 finish, 8-9, and they're probably the last spot out.
All right, there you have it. He is, of course, Nick Kosko on Twitter, at Nick Kosko, 59, national writer of video, at 24/7 Sports, play-by-play, RU Wrestling, Jersey Flight, Atlantic City FC, high school football, and a host right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio with the college football pick'em show every Saturday, 8 to 9. Appreciate you, pal. Enjoy. Take a lot of photos and just kind of take it all in on Saturday. You will have a blast. Really, just take a couple moments and just kind of enjoy the scenery.
Oh, absolutely, Hugh. I'm going to be there extremely early for the pageantry, the ceremonial stuff. I'll try to get down to the field as well, just kind of soak in the atmosphere even before the fans file in, and then Yeah, it's gonna be one heck of a day on Saturday.
All right, have fun, pal. Be safe. Enjoy it.
Later, Q. Thanks.
You got it. Our guy, Nick Kosko. Great stuff. Quick timeout, 4:41.